From our studios around the world, this is the Taste of Place podcast. Each month, we share stories from the keepers of culinary culture and heritage to spark ideas for your professional path or your next travel adventure. I'm your host, Erik Wolf. Thanks for listening. In this episode, number 81, we meet Veronica Peralta of Paccari Chocolate, the Ecuadorian company redefining what ethical chocolate means. The company was founded by her brother Santiago, and its name Paccari comes from the indigenous Quechua language word for nature. Paccari has become a global model for sustainable and socially responsible chocolate production. Veronica shares how the company began by recognizing Ecuador's extraordinary cocoa heritage and confronting the rural poverty behind it. Through long-term partnerships with thousands of small farmers, Paccari has helped preserve biodiversity, protect fine flavor cocoa varieties, and ensures that ethical and environmental integrity are at the heart of every bar. The intersection of culture, community, and conservation shows how a commitment to fairness and quality can transform an entire industry, one cocoa bean at a time. This episode is sponsored by the World Food Travel Association's Taste of Place movement, a global initiative celebrating culinary culture, food heritage, and the makers who bring them to life. Together, we help travelers connect more deeply with destinations through their unique flavors and traditions. Learn more at worldfoodtravel.org. In the studio today, I am very pleased to welcome Veronica Peralta from Paccari Chocolate in Cuenca, Ecuador. And before we get started, I just want to say, Veronica, that I absolutely love your chocolates, and I love Ecuador, and I love Cuenca, and I love the people. And there's nothing I don't like about your company and the chocolates. And it's just, you guys are wonderful people. And when you agreed to appear on the podcast, I was so excited because finally we get a chance to hear your story. So welcome to the show, Veronica.
Hey, thank you. Thank you, Erik. For me, it's a pleasure to be here. And it's really nice to see you again. So this way, but we have been together several times. And I remember we were in Madrid together and we were here in the tasting too. Then I enjoy a lot your interest in gastronomy, and I believe that it's always fun to talk to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So please tell the story about Paccari and also the certification that you have for the ethical farming, because you have a very unique company in the world when it comes to cocoa beans and chocolate production. And I don't know that a lot of our audience knows about how unique and interesting your company is. So would you please tell the story?
Of course, there's many things to talk about Paccari, but the initial idea that we get to cocoa is because we find out that Ecuador had a wonderful cocoa, and we began to dig in the information and the practices, and we found also, we have the best cocoa of the world. We have poverty in the countryside. And once we finally decode this secret, because a certain way Ecuadorians didn't know that we have the best cocoa in the world, for instance, and the best places where you can go and you find cocoa, or the best chocolates of the world, were done with cocoa from Ecuador. Then when we find out that, we came back to the countryside. My brother, Santiago, who is the founder of Paccari, go to the farm, to the countryside, to find out how much the cocoa workers were receiving from that to the base to make the best chocolate of the world. And we found out that it was less than 1% of the total amount of the chocolate bars that we found in Europe or around the world. Then we found was something that the start of our trunk was like, we didn't feel fine with that because we realized that there's kind of abuse there. But we finally my brother decided to to take this opportunity to make a change in Ecuador. Because one of the things that we normally used to discuss when we were young, we used to discuss on at the table with my father or with my mom, my brothers and sisters, was this about poverty. Why Ecuador being so rich, you still have poverty? And so sometimes ignoring things like that you have something fabulous like the best cocoa of the world in the countryside is the reason that you don't give the correct price to that or the value that actually has. Then we began to help the farmers to get organized in associations because they didn't have enough resources to have a certification, for instance, organic certification. That is too expensive for the farmers here. Then we decide to help it to get organized in this. And we were able in the first 20 years of work, organize 3,500 families to get organized in in every province. They put all their cocoa there and also to learn how to do the good fermentation, do a drying process that is correct, the roasting process. And also, we went a little bit back there. We went to the farm to teach them to keep themselves organic, but have the certification. And beside of having the certification, also learn to improve their organic practices, going more like the bitter or the other biodynamic organic farming that is much more healthier, give much more energy to the drought. Then Paccari become to have, since we began to work from the tree, we were able to get the best cocoa beans in the world because we were taking care from the soil, from the tree, and all the practices and them help they to know how to handle well. Also, because sometimes they have some ones were not organic, but we try to also to help them they become organic. The soil needs to be cleaned during many years to be able to have a certification. But that's the way how we were beginning to help it to keep organic. So they become certified like organic and Demeter, that is for me the Lamborghini of the organic, the best or the most profound way of taking care of the soil, the plants. And it was really a huge process until we get the confidence of them also, because they didn't, at the beginning, they didn't trust us because they said, why these people is trying to do all this? They are making work in this. But also was something very important that happened too, is that we arrived in the perfect time to stop all the biodiversity from cocoa, the fine cocoa, be destroyed. And it was so important. Yeah, so important because there's another variety that is much more stronger and easy to manage and to harvest and everything. Then people was beginning to just do that, cultivate that, and taking out the fine cocoa from the market, from the countryside. Then we arrive on time to take care of them. When you support a company as Paccari, you gotta be supporting biodiversity of the most fine cocoa of the world.
And I would agree with that. I remember on my very first trip to Ecuador in 2013, I was only in Quito, but that's where I discovered your chocolate. And that was when your company name was spelled differently with only one C. And then you changed it. But anyway, I tried the chocolate and I was speechless. I couldn't talk because it was so different and so much better than the chocolate that I had anywhere else. And you can immediately taste the difference. And I remember a specific example. I was trying some chocolate and the person said, "What flavors do you taste?" And I said, "I think it's banana." And he said, "Yes, that's right." And I said, "Is there banana in here?" And he goes, "No, there's no banana in there. It's from the province of Esmeralda. And that particular variety of cocoa bean has a natural kind of banana-like flavor to it." And I thought, wow. And so when you think the flavor is so pure, that kind of subtle, soft flavor can actually come and shine. You have an amazing product.
It's really every week. That was a surprising thing for us too, because I remember my brother bringing the chocolate. Say, "I'm doing chocolate," and say, "Okay, come the chocolate, let's try it." And he showed me different regions, and I began to try. And so of course, I was used to have another kind of chocolate. My idea of chocolate was also with milk always. Then in the beginning, I didn't perceive all the flavors. Say, "Okay, this is really dark." And my brother said, "No, let's try the other one." We began to compare the one origin to the other one. And I remember we had 3 origin ones. That was Esmeralda, the one that you try, and they're so consistent. I still have that chocolate like in the tastings, and it's so consistent. The banana flavor, like yellow fruit and banana flavor, so consistent. And I have been trying this chocolate 20 years, and it's still the banana flavor is a constant in that cocoa from that region, that single origin. Then you went to the other one is Manabí, is the another province from Ecuador. And Manabí is more dry and it's more like more desertic biodiversity. You have a big part that is like that, and the flavor is, and you have is much more citric. The bar used to be my favorite when we have that 3 origins. And then you have Los Rios, that is the province, actually where the first big crops of cocoa that were the first ones that were exported a long time ago, in the beginning of the 20th century, came from Los Rios. And that was the first flavor that the world tried from this country. And it's a classic, really intense flavor, and it's intense. It's really intense flavor. And these flavors are still having particularities that make you realize that there is not 3 varieties of cocoa. That is when you go online and you try to find out and say how many varieties of cocoa, you're going to find 3 in the internet. They're going to talk about 3 varieties. But actually in Ecuador, you have 500 varieties.
500?
And they still finding new things. Because it's the base of it's our biodiversity. We have the 70% of the genetic base of all the cocoa of the world. That's the other thing that Ecuadorians didn't know. And other people knew, but they were like, they don't need to know that.
Being quiet about it, yeah.
Yeah. And right now is something that our mission, my personal mission is to spread the word and to Ecuadorians know more about it and make the reconnection with memory about this, because there's not that we didn't know about this, but we began to take out value of knowing more about cocoa, because everything from abroad was more important or more interesting, or then we are reconnecting all that information, all these pieces of information around whole Ecuador experience with your experiences in different places that they were not told because they lose interest in society in a certain way. Then this is a really beautiful experience to try cocoa from one area. And now we have 6 or 7 from single origin, and we have from guayas, and it's so different. It's so different. It's so creamy, and it's completely different the flavor from Los Rios, even if they are very close. And you go to the jungle, and it's different the flavor too. And if you go to the north of Peru, you have one that's done from a cocoa that is albine cocoa that is like white, and the flavor feels like you have milk in the mouth. It's gonna be toffee. There's nothing to be with Rojillos, nothing to be with Esmeraldas, nothing to be. We are really close, but flavors are different. The varieties has developed different flavors in every terruño. I don't know if that word in English, which one it is, terruño, but it's the place where actually it's like wine. The characteristics of the environment where the plant grows determine completely the flavor.
As you're talking and as I was talking, I realized we're both smiling a lot. And for anyone who's not watching the video, you can't see this, but we are smiling and we're talking about chocolate. Chocolate is happiness. It brings joy to your life.
That's true. That's true. I don't going to be able to stop having. One of the things I love is doing the tastings and sharing this, or being in a fair of chocolate. Is people has begun to vibrate with happiness and joy. That is what we're looking for in that. Them is so important. While you're looking, your brain is looking for that. Yeah, your brain is looking for that. At least you don't gonna mix it with many other substances that are gonna not good for your body.
Sugar.
Yeah, sugar is part of the thing, but you can begin to get detoxing your palate to know you to be able to little by little go less sugar. Finally, the memory of our tongue lasts 3-4 days. Then you are consistent in that, you're going to be able to take some cocoa with no sugar. In the beginning, I was not able to tolerate as much. And I went little by little, 60 to 70, 70 to 80. Now I'm in the 90s easily. I love we have a bar. This is the best bar for me from Paccari.
And it's 90%.
It's a 90%. It's a 90%.
Wow.
And I always have a box with me because it's a fabulous chocolate, and also it's a process. I believe it's also all the process of learning of the company, of the trajectory that we have had, making difference in process and new researching always how to improve the process. And besides that, it's a raw bar. That is something that is unique in Paccari. Please, you are around the world, but if you have the chance to find a raw bar that tastes and have the texture that has Paccari, let me know. Because the texture you have, the raw bars that we have are so intense, and also is because we respect so much the process, then the flavors began to get, you don't lose flavors through the process. Then this one is a 90%, a raw bar, and even is a 90, you still feel so much sweetness because of the process. Nice. Yeah, it's really interesting.
That's amazing. I really have a lot of respect for your company, because your company was not about, oh, we've got great cocoa in Ecuador, let's make a lot of money. Your company was about, let's work with the farmers and do something good for Ecuador and them. And you set up this cooperative, you and your brother set up the cooperative, trained the farmers, showed them how to improve their skills, bought them new machinery when necessary to help them through the process. And improve their harvest, improve their yield, improve their sanitation, and all of these things. And really, it's really amazing what you have been able to do for the cocoa industry in Ecuador. It's almost like what the government should be doing, but you're doing it.
Yeah, that's the thing. My brother and my sister, Carla, sister-in-law, is still working to try to get. I believe we have a huge political work because this is not anymore about Paccari. For me, it's about Ecuador and South America, about biodiversity. We finally, through this, we were able to take care of cocoa. And should be the government doing this, but while we are trying to connect to them and trying to invite them to tastings, trying to make them understand, we keep being a model that can be replicated. For instance, right now, I know my brother is looking for every patch of forest that has the fine cocoa to keep it and to reproduce.
To protect it.
Yeah, to protect. And the only way to protect in this system is through money, through somebody to be useful. If it's not inside, for instance, I'm dreaming and I'm still working in having a bar from Azuay, because from my province, I would like to have like from every province from Ecuador. Like you have a collection from the 21 provinces from Ecuador.
A chocolate map of Ecuador.
Yeah, exactly. But to do that is so hard because you have to work with the farmers from that area, and you have 2 hectares here, 2 hectares there. There's no huge amount of trees. And then you have to try to recover the little forests. And then you have to also to duplicate this. And it's going to take longer to duplicate this. But it's while people don't, Paccari you pay more for a Riba cocoa, like fine cocoa. And we don't work with the other one.
Okay.
But the words, when they buy, they don't care. They just want cocoa and they buy the other one. And the farmers mix it because they don't pay for the fine cocoa, because they don't need fine cocoa. They need to put milk, but they don't recognize the price of sugar and a lot of vanilla, blah, 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 and other things. And it's going to be like cocoa is treated like a condiment, like a spice. You put like canela, and you put the cinnamon, and you put pepper. That's the way it's treated.
It's not cocoa anymore.
Yeah, exactly. But it's treated like that. Then you don't need it too strong. You don't need it for that. But fine cocoa, the one that we try and we use, is completely different in flavor, of course. But beside of that, you're taking care of, we are paying better price for the farmers to keep the streets alive. That part has been, but we are able to do it for a group of farmers and close from the place where we are. What happened with the other farmers in the other side of the country? They are not having the reason for taking care of that forest. Maybe it's better to just cut it and grow the other cocoa. Doesn't have flavor, but they don't pay anymore.
Yeah,
Then
that's maybe how they think. Yeah.
That's the thing that we would like to they get this model to reply, then we don't lose the last biodiversity of this tree.
I think that A lot of consumers probably don't know about the different chocolate varietals. They think cocoa is cocoa and they don't understand the differences. And you were saying something before about how climate change is actually impacting the industry there in a really serious way in Ecuador. Would you like to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. The last 2 years has been really hard with the cocoa market in general. Africa, was they produce 30% of around the 20% of the fine cocoa of the world. And also they have another varieties too. And because of the climate change, the cocoa production, they didn't have any production the last year. And that means completely a catastrophe for all the people that used to buy the cocoa from Africa. Then everybody came to Ecuador and to South America to find cocoa because we have the 70% of the fine cocoa and other varieties too. And we have cocoa, but the price went 13 times over the original price. Then now cocoa, and all that influencing many ways of how the business was working here. Finally, was 13 times a ton was, in a few months, was $13,000 a ton. Then now is around 500, 350, depending the price of which cocoa you are selling. We classify that, or we ask the farmers to classify, but that make a huge difference here. And beside all the facts of security that we are having right now, make a huge different situation in the countryside. But the good side of this is that farmers are receiving more money for the cocoa finally. And the other day I was talking with Santi, and Santi was went to a fair in Guayaquil, and he was so happy and saying, I'm so happy because farmers were so happy, so proud, because they are like, finally they're receiving a good amount of money for their work. And, but it's something that is sad, understanding that the other side of the world in Africa, you have people that is suffering without no harvest. That can happen here too, and climate change is affecting crops all around the world.
The heat killed the cocoa harvest in Africa, so there was no cocoa harvested from Africa.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you're right, that could happen in Ecuador. It could happen in Indonesia.
Yeah, it can happen. The good thing from Ecuador is that we have a really good biodiversity. We still have forests. We have a lot of forests. But anyway, the climate change worsening ways that we don't calculate. Our mind doesn't calculate all that thing if you don't have more information. Maybe a biologist can tell you close that what can happen if we do certain things. But 1 degree is changing. It's changing, and it's changing everywhere. We don't know what is going to happen with our ability to take food from the ground.
Where I live in Spain, this area was really well known for almond trees. And then they got a disease, and then now they're ripping out all the almond trees and they're putting in olives. But what's actually happening is it's becoming more of a desert. And when you drive around, about 1/3 of the trees now are dead because it's too hot. There's not enough water and the trees are dying. So then that's a fire risk as well. But there's no new trees growing. So in 50 years, this is going to be a desert like Northern Africa.
And this is happening around the world too. For instance, Cuenca people believe that because we have water and we have now problems with the mines, they want companies that trying to get to certain places that we have the origin of the water in Quesacocha. here that is a beautiful space, but actually is already overexploited. If you go there, there's no trees.
Oh,
It's beautiful. Yes, you have a circuit of lakes, beautiful lakes, and the landscaping is beautiful and everything. But if you notice, there's no trees. It's already overexploited. Should
wow.
be reversed, and we have been taking care of this area, and it's part of UNESCO protection of biodiversity. But there's people that want to do mining in the origin of water. Then all the city is no way. No, it's not gonna happen. We just had a march, like it's called the Fifth River. We have 4 rivers in Cuenca. Then the first river where the Cuencanos and all the friends of Cuenca walking in the streets. We have more than 100,000 people in the streets. Was fabulous. Really take your heart seeing everybody trying to protest about this. But talking with the biologists about this, they were saying around Cuenca, we're getting more desertic. And you believe that because you have water or whatever. And maybe doing some mine here is not going to happen. Everything is going to against water. And with water, without water, you get to these problems. You need to reforest everything.
Yeah.
And the tree that we have, the cocoa tree needs the original one, the fine cocoa that we use for our chocolate. Take care of the biodiversity because it doesn't survive with no other trees. Need biodiversity. Then it's very important to take care. When you're taking this bar, you're taking a bar that is support farmers and also biodiversity. Then it has the social aspect, but also the environmental aspect. And that make it so symbiotic and so important to keep understanding how we use our power. Because everybody has power in their hands. Everybody has power. It's not just the government or the enterprises. Everyone, we have power in our hands. And it's the work that we do, we have some money, or we choose to put in the other hand power. Then we always can choose giving our power where you have to. And understanding which one is taking care of biodiversity, which one is not taking care of biodiversity, who is taking care of the social aspect of the community, then we can take care of the population and help. Doing your work, then, is very important to understand what is behind every company that we to investigate a little bit, doing a little research. Sometimes we are buying something every day, and you don't know if in the background you're helping or not. Or this company is doing something interesting that can help you to help or to take care, because and finally is a very egocentric fact to take care of you, because we are in this land and in this world, then we need to think a little bit about that and just don't guide you only because you like it or because it's a good price. Because we have these 2 variations that we are asking every day to take the decision to buy some. Then that thing needs to evolve a little bit in every human being to make a difference.
So in 2021, there was an article or a review published in Ethical Consumer magazine out of the UK. And Paccari were you first place or second place in the most ethical
First.
chocolate company? First place,
First.
yeah. And that
Yeah.
is such an amazing accomplishment. Did that help boost consumer awareness about the chocolate industry?
I believe that, I don't know how it's in Europe. I believe that I don't know, you're living in Spain and you can notice how conscious they are or how much they use these reports to see whether they work or how they decide to buy. What are we gonna buy today for my needs? I believe that for me, I feel that most of the people that have access to this information in this country, in Ecuador, means inspiration. Inspiration is the most frequent feeling that I can see from people because it's saying we are able to be ethical. We are not the country very every time saying that we corrupt and we have a corrupt government and everybody is corrupt and blah, blah, blah. But actually, when you see this in the private area, that the corruptions go to another countries, that actually Ecuadorian company, an Ecuadorian company is having the most ethical chocolate. How come?
Yeah. And
You know,
how can you do it in Ecuador and the other companies can't do it? I think
exactly.
that when we publish this episode, we will put a link to the Ethical Consumer article and people can see the article. And people are going to be extremely surprised at some of the biggest brands that they know and many love, where they scored on the list, and also why they scored so low on the list. Things, not child labor is not just one of them, but there's arms trafficking and drugs and promoting wars and all kinds of really crazy influences in the cocoa market.
Lobby, a lot of political lobby,
Yeah,
and you have also
exactly.
antisocial finance. That is so cruel because you go to these countries that they need is like us helping the farmer to have the equipment to dry the cocoa instead of get destroyed because of humidity or damp, and make like a loan to them. Say, okay, I loan you, but at 30% of interest. And then I come a few months later and say, okay, where's my money? Give me your land. Things like that.
Yep.
That kind of things is happening in Africa. And it's terrible. It's so cruel. These people have been forever taking care of for centuries, these cocoa trees.
I think as bad as things are, what you're describing, I think that there's change on the horizon. I think change is coming. I am an optimist. And as people talk, oh, we're on the brink of World War III, and look at Ukraine and Russia, and look what the United States, and people are preoccupied with that stuff. But I have to think that when all of this is done, that we're going to go back to valuing what matters, that we're going to go back to our culinary culture and heritage, the agricultural crops that matter. And I just have to believe that this is going to be the future, because I think if we didn't believe in a positive future, then I think life would be almost unbearable. It would be so hard.
Yeah. You have to, what you can do. There is problems or activities that they are in your hands.
Out of our hands.
There are
Yes,
things
everything's out of our hands.
Yes.
That's true.
Some ones. Other ones, yes. You were able. I think the archie enemy, like the one that is ignorance. Don't hear about it. I don't want to hear it, and I keep going. It's like hearing, knowing that it's not in your hands, but finding what is, asking the universe, asking yourself, what is in my hands that I can do? Maybe I can go to Palestine, or I can go to Africa. But now what I can do to support what is making that progress, that hope, that thing that it shows you is possible. It's not so hard to do this. The only value in the world is not only money. We have water. You have a good weather. You need crops. Then you need to begin to think bigger. But the only way to get that and take good decisions every day, because every day you have the ability to take decisions. When you go shopping, choosing what you buy, how much do you pollute, and what's that behind them? I think that will be a really nice practice to learn about. For this ethical organization, the ethical consumer arc, I believe that should be like beside the Bible or the Quran, like there, because that's the way we practice today. The way we practice is through what do you support? You go to the big company, you go to the small market, or you go to the small farm, and where you put your energy, then there is a lot of hope. But we need to have this program that you're doing, these podcasts and things like that people realize that it's not away from our hands, that we can do many things that is in our hands. The other ones, you can't suffer because of that. You don't going to be like, indifference is not the position. You have a position, but try to find something to do close from you. Then you can keep hope open because things can change.
I think the lesson here is that knowledge is power. If you have the knowledge, then you can do something about it. Veronica, we need to finish up today. Thank you so much for your time and sharing your knowledge with our listeners. And really, thank you for everything that you do, both for the cocoa industry, but also for Ecuador. You have really one of the most special countries, I think, on planet Earth. And I, for one, certainly appreciate all that you're doing to help promote and raise the visibility of Ecuador and its products outside of the country. So thank you again.
Thank you, Erik. Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate the work that you're doing, to taking care of all this information that is so important for the progress of the gastronomy and knowing what is behind this country that is a fabulous country.
Thanks again.
That's it for this episode of the Taste of Place podcast. This episode is brought to you by the World Food Travel Association and its Taste of Place movement. We'd like to hear from you. We invite you to share your ideas, questions, and thoughts about the podcast by contacting us through our website, or you can connect with us and comment about the episode on major social media platforms. Special thanks to our guest Veronica Peralta, and our sincerest thanks to you for joining us. I'm Erik Wolf, wishing you a safe, happy, and productive month ahead.